one of the other things that you have to do this week, and that is related to this link right here, Mercy Values. This is actually a page which has a discussion in it. So if you scroll down the page here, you'll see Mercy Discussion, and the prompt for that is here, and it's really based on two things. It's going, here are the four Mercy values that guide Mount Aloysius College and are an integral part of your education, my teaching, and the whole, community identity of Mount Aloysius College. So they're very important to know, but it's not just enough to know what they are and to be able to kind of just regurgitate those. Yes, I know that the values are mercy, hospitality, service, justice, but to actually be able to think about how they can be used in situations that you encounter in your lives, okay, professional lives, personal lives, okay. So this is kind of trying to get you to think about that. The first one of these, the first of this part of the discussion post is pick one of the mercy values, explain it in a little bit more detail in your own words. Okay, that's the first piece. Don't just regurgitate here what is listed as a definition or something you find online, but put it into your own words. And then next is provide an example of a scenario in your career where you can use the mercy value that you choose in your response to that scenario. Okay, this is the first part of the discussion. That's it. You don't have to. I'm not concerned that you're writing a book as long as you capture that. And I mean, it could be done in a few sentences. It could be done in a paragraph. It could be done in 2 paragraphs. You're not writing a paper here. I'm trying to get you to think about the mercy values more than just knowing what they are and being able to provide a surface type kind of definition. Just trying to think about them, putting it into your own words, and then taking that and synthesizing this value that you choose into a scenario. Okay? That's the first part. The second part is related to a part of the Mount Aloysius College philosophy statement. This isn't the entire philosophy statement, but it is the first half or a third of the philosophy statement of the mountains, and it reads, as a Catholic college founded and sponsored by the Religious Sisters of Mercy, Mount Aloysius College provides a setting in which students are encouraged to synthesize faith with learning, and then bolded and underlined here, to develop competence with compassion, and to put talents and gifts at the service of others, and to begin to assume leadership in the world community. Okay, so I bolded and underlined the piece that I want you to focus on here, and that's to develop competence with compassion. Okay, well, we think of competence as that I can do something. I'm competent that I can do this. Okay, but competence, if you go back and look at the roots of this word, really means competing, okay? That you're able to compete. So if that is the essence of how this is being used in this philosophy statement, and I say that it is, how do you compete and be compassionate at the same time? Okay? So if I am going, and I give the scenario here, if I'm going for a job and I know that one of my best friends or my brother or my neighbor is applying for that same job, how do I compete and still be compassionate in that process? And that's really what this is trying to get at, because competing, I was raised to believe that competing means that I have to beat my opponent. Okay, whether that been when I was playing baseball when I was younger, or if I was on the basketball court, or if I was playing, a board game or checkers or chess or something, it was all about winning, beating. Okay, when you compete, you win. Okay, and you do whatever you can to win. But is that in alignment with being compassionate? Okay, I would suggest it isn't. So how can you compete with compassion? And that's really the second part of this that I want you to get at. And I think this is really important in terms of, your futures and your careers and your personal relationships. How do you compete with compassion? Okay, so that's really what this second part of the discussion is about, just getting you to think about that. Really think about it, and then I'll kind of moderate this and jump in and kind of guide discussions as we go here. But really think about that, competing with compassion, before you start to post, okay? And that link to that discussion is here. And the other point to note here that I did note here is that you won't be able to see. So if you click on this, you won't be able to see. You'll think there aren't any responses yet. Don't let that deter you from responding, because you won't be able to see other students' posts until you post your own. So once you post your response to this prompt, you will then be able to see others' posts that have been completed as well. Okay, so that's that. That's the other piece of this. I think this is really important. So make sure that you get this done. Here are chapters 8 and 9. And chapter 8 is really all about kind of, going over these kind of, it's as a result, connecting the parts. And it really discusses the connective kind of tissues of the writing process. And the authors of the textbook really emphasize that creating connections between sentences and ideas both increases sentence variety and kind of helps construct a more convincing argument. Okay, they consider these transitions both within a paragraph, not just from paragraph to paragraph, as I've noted on your writing assignments up to this point, and kind of within a paragraph and between the paragraphs as well. And they discuss kind of 4 ways to connect the parts using transition terms, adding pointing words, developing key terms, and repeating yourself kind of with a difference. So this is really important. This is an important chapter. You have to really make sure that you are getting your points across and that your reader can connect those points from one transition idea to another. So chapter 8 is kind of really important. Then chapter 9 is all about, and the title of chapter 9 is, "You mean I can just say it that way? Academic writing doesn't mean setting aside your own voice." And this chapter really argues that students can blend formal and academic language with more everyday kind of colloquial language. The authors of this textbook caution that students shouldn't fall back on colloquial usage as an excuse for not learning more rigorous forms of expression, but they go on to point out that a mixture of academic and more casual language can enliven an essay and help writers underscore points they want to call attention to, which is really important. They suggest employing kind of a translation recipe, that you state something formally and then translate it into everyday language. That kind of helps your reader understand your more casual language, which I think is a good approach to writing, where you state something very formally and then give your own language in your own voice on that. And that's kind of what I've tried to emphasize throughout this course, which I think is very important as you prepare for the capstone, is kind of that back and forth, making sure that your voice is heard in this. Even in the most scientific of writing, the authors of this textbook, they posit that you can still, you should still, you ought to still integrate your own voice into that. Okay, so that's kind of the readings for the week, just kind of a general overview of those. So make sure you read those. Very important, and I think it'll be helpful as you write your final